All right, with that, we'll go ahead and jump into our content. I have spoken on this topic before, and so some of you may have heard it before, but this is a very important aspect of what we do is building a reputation. I'll pull up a couple participant window here. Not my normal computer setup, so I'm having to move things around differently. The sound's a little different. I don't have my microphone and my camera. I have my laptop propped up on top of a stack of towels in that lake house. So, we make do. But all right, so we want to talk today about building a solid reputation within the apartment syndication industry. I know that's a mouthful. The syndication industry, that's kind of niche. The multifamily industry is really what we want to talk about, how to build a reputation in the multifamily industry or any industry. You want to get into storage, you want to get into hotel, car wash, whatever. This is still applicable. And so the key here is setting a precedent, sticking with it, and being able to grow or scale based on reputation alone. I think that's the number one biggest aspect that people leave out. There's so many people that they have a different method of doing things, and that's fine. That's their method. It works for them. I'm not going to knock it. It's not my method. That's not our method. We have a very strict policy about reputation, about integrity, about doing what we say we're going to do, about moving quickly. Those are all things that are non-negotiables for us. And it's just candidly, I get very stressed or agitated if we are delayed a little bit more than what we normally are. But then I look at how we compare to other groups, and I'm able to calm down and like, okay, it's all right. We're still way faster than everybody else, but it's just the mentality that we have. And the reason we do that is to build repeat transactions. So the more people enjoy working with us, the more confident they are in us, the better chance we have of doing business with that group again. And if you've ever done a transaction or been involved in a transaction that was not that way, it was not pleasant, then you know what I'm talking about. You are reluctant to do business with that group again. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and it's just not it's not playing the long game. Is what we always say. Is you got to play the long game. You have to plan on being in this industry forever. There are people that are, I'm going to use the term shiesty, or always retrade and always do, just kind of always nickel and diming, and just not being real, honest, upright individuals. And it's just not a good way to do this. You're not going to stay around very long. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the major content here. So improving your reputation. And again, I'm just going to have this screen up for you as we go through, and I'll switch off and just talk to you as well. So our first point is improving your reputation through words and actions, which speaks louder. So one of the big things is making your actions match your words, because talk is cheap. When you first get started in the apartment industry or multifamily industry, you're going to have to prove your words. So you're going to have to put money behind your words in order to prove it, until they can see that your actions match your words. And then that becomes less vital. When we first started out, we were having to put large amounts of earnest money deposit down. And that still happens with groups that haven't transacted with us before. They just don't know us, regardless of our referrals. It doesn't matter. If they've never transacted with you before, they don't know. They don't have experiential knowledge of how you perform. And a lot of people talk a big game and can't close the deal. So, rightfully so, they have some reservations when it comes to new groups coming in talking a big game. So like I said, at first we have to put up large earnest money deposits just to back ourselves up. But then our reputation precedes us, and we're able to get more and more done. So one thing that you want to be careful about, especially when bidding on deals, is don't just throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, or mud against the wall, or whatever terminology you want to use. That is an error. In my opinion, that's an error We don't put LOIs on anything unless there are rare situations we'll do this, and I'll explain it in a minute. We don't put LOIs out on anything that we're not prepared to buy and that we're not able to purchase. Because if we get awarded the deal, let's say we put in an LOI, and we get awarded the deal, and they're like, "Oh, well, I didn't expect to win that deal," and you back out of it, even at that early stage, it kind of like they're going to be suspicious. The broker's going to be suspicious next time. They're like, "Well, I gave them the deal, and they backed out of it, so maybe they're not serious when they put offers in, and so now they're not going to take your offer seriously." So be careful about that. That's going to require a lot of vetting the deal prior to putting in the LOI. That takes a lot of work, and that's just part of it. And that's what we're talking about today. It's like you have to put in the work to build your reputation. It's very easy to look through a pro forma, pump out some numbers, NOI, cap rate, real easy returns, but we get very granular on our underwriting and checking everything. We have a complete deal flow process from start to finish. Who has to verify what checklists that go down through our deal path software that we use, make sure that every box has been checked on that deal before we put an LOI on it. And even when we get to that point, we're verifying our director of acquisitions, Eric Fitzgerald, is verifying with me, hey, you good to submit this? Yep, verify it. And then we don't go ahead, and because of that, we don't have to go tour as many deals because we're not putting as many LOIs out. But I know groups that put LOIs on everything all the time. We're not big fans of that. We tend to be very specific in our criteria and only put LOIs on the deals that we want, and not just always being in front of everybody. You get a little bit lost in the static, I think. That's my opinion. But that is a big part of building a reputation is when they see your name come up, when they see, like in our case, when they see passiveinvesting.com come across the email with an LOI, I want that to invoke a response or a reaction from the broker, like, "Oh, Passive's involved." That they know, because they know that we're going to close deals. We have never not closed the deal that we've put under contract. And that's on the multifamily side. On the development side, some of the car wash stuff, I'm going to have land sites that zoning didn't work out, and we will not be able to close the deal in the DD period. But we've never not closed the deal we put under contract. So we've gone through the DD, but that's another part of it. A lot of groups have a tendency to get really tight with their underwriting, and they'll put an offer in on a deal, and then they get to the due diligence and they find out that the roofs need replacing or the parking lot needs repair, and the bank's going to hold an escrow, and now the underwriting doesn't work, and so they have to fall out of the deal. Two problems with that. Number one, you should never have your underwriting so close, so tight like that a small thing like that will make the deal fall out. Number two, you need to have contingencies built in anyways, even though you have conservative underwriting, and you realize you have padding in there. You have sensitivities for interest rates and insurance and taxes, and you have some sensitivity there, but you also need to have contingencies. So we have operating reserves set up for that case, just in case there is a situation that we didn't expect. We can go ahead and have that money, and that will happen. You'll come in, the bank will do their PCA, their property condition assessment, and it will review. They'll say, "Oh, you got to replace the roof, so we're going to escrow, $400,000 until you get the roofs replaced, and you have to get them replaced by year 2." That was not expected, and if you don't have liquidity to cover that, and you didn't have contingencies, then that can really hurt you and then cause you to drop out of the deal. Another method that people use that I do not recommend is retrading. So they'll bid high on purpose. So they'll bid whatever it takes to win the deal. So let's say you're bidding at $250 a door, and the broker says, "Oh, we got a group at $275." And you're like, "Sure, whatever, $275," but it really doesn't work for you at $275, and your intention the whole time is to retrade once you get into due diligence. So in other words, you go do the inspection and you find that the roof needs to be replaced, for instance. and you say, oh, I didn't know the roof's need to replace, it's going to cost me $450,000, so I want to reduce the purchase price by $450,000, whatever the case may be. That's retrading. I would avoid that at all costs. There will be instances where that's going to be something that may come up. I'm not going to say it never will happen, but don't do it as a practice. So don't intentionally outbid everybody else and then come back and retrade the deal, because you do that one time and you'll have a reputation for doing that. And you'll be less likely to be awarded the deal next time, because they know that you technically aren't the highest bidder. You're just doing it to get to get rid of all the competition. So be careful of that. I'm trying to think of other things during the transaction period. This is another good one. During the due diligence, be very quick. Actually, let me back up a little bit. Sorry. During the PSA negotiations, your team is very vital in this process. So how fast your attorney is turning things around. If you've got a legal team that's, oh, we're on vacation here and I can't get the PSA back this week because the team's out of town, that's not going to fly. You need to be faster than anybody you do business with. So, I don't care if you're doing business with Blackstone or CBRE Global or who it is, you need to be the fastest one in that transaction process. So they're just wowed by you. Like our legal team is turning PSA red lines around in the same day. Sometimes there's an exception to that, but they are phenomenal with Brownlee, Whitlow, and Freight. I will go ahead and plug them. They're amazing real estate attorneys. They have an office in Raleigh and in Atlanta. They're invaluable and have helped us in our reputation. So as soon as we get a contract back, boom, it's right back to them with a red line. And then we got to wait for them 3 days. And they send it back and boom, we send it right back to them. It builds that reputation. And so not only the broker, it makes their job easy, but it also makes the seller want to sell to you again. So that's an important thing. But then once you get done with PSA, how quickly you wire the money, don't delay. Getting on site, communicating with the broker, how many people are going to be there, who's going to be walking, and stick to that schedule. If you say there's going to be 3 people inside doing lease audits and contract review, and you got 3 people doing unit walks, and make sure that that's who shows up. Don't show up with 4 walk teams and then they're scrambling to get somebody else out there to walk with that person, whatever the case may be. Just always do what you say you're going to do and make your words match your actions. It's going to help you a lot. And then obviously closing the deal. So you've gone through PSA, you've gone through due diligence, you've gone through, and now you're into the closing phase, making sure that everything's ready for closing, making sure you reviewed everything, making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, getting it across the line. Is going to be very, very important to winning your next deal. But that is winning your first deal, getting the deal across, but then staying out in front of all the brokers and being known for being a good group to deal with. It becomes, at the beginning, it's very, very important to be just constantly keep up with the brokers, stay in touch with them, have good conversations with them, be cordial. It's hard sometimes because it is business and you're busy, and but you got to take time, answer that phone call when they call, check in on them, build a personal relationship with the brokers, and that will help build your reputation in their mind. I do want to take a second and just ask, I went through a lot of information there in that first section about closing on a deal, so I wanted to see if there were any questions. Just to take a short breath here. I was moving pretty quickly. Any questions? Go ahead and put them in the Q&A. While I'm waiting on those, I'll go ahead and move on to the next. There's no questions right now. How to stand out in the crowd. So you want to find out what other groups are doing. Obviously, that's your crowd, right? And so if you want to know how you can stand out in the crowd, you got to know what they're doing. One thing, and I've mentioned this before in prior webinars, is we have a like a one-sheeter that pretty much gives our background as a group to the broker. So we submit that with every LOI. It talks about how many deals we closed, how much money we raised last year, et cetera, whatever metrics you want to put into that. How many, what's in your portfolio, and then we put in references too from other brokers. And that has helped us a lot. So that's one way you can stand out in the crowd. We also will request a PSA draft from the seller if they want to provide it. If not, we as the buyer can provide it, and we'll go ahead and have a red line version already turned back to them. And the reason that's important is we're one step closer to getting the deal closed. So we're in agreement on the terms, loosely on the LOI. LOI is non-binding. It's just basically purchase price, earnest money deposit, due diligence time frame, and closing time frame. That's really all an LOI is good for. You could have it in 3 lines on 1 page. It'd be fine. But then getting into the PSA is where, you know, the meat and potatoes are. And so the more you can get that honed down before they award you the deal, the more confident they are that they can get the deal done fast. So this is pre-awarding, them verbally awarding the deal to you. You can get a draft to them, say, hey, here's our PSA draft. You know, if there's anything, you know, egregious in there that you don't like, let us know, or vice versa. If they send it to you, we go ahead and redline it, and we tell our legal team, hey, just, you know, if it's a business decision thing, you know, let's be as light as possible. Let's not be heavy-handed and try to get everything in our favor, but at the same time, we want to be protected legally. So that's what we do there. So those are some ways that you can kind of stand out in the crowd, but also, like I mentioned before, always staying in touch with the brokers. That's a big one. And it's a lot, especially as you grow and you're in many markets. There's multiple brokers. You got to keep track of them and who's covering what, and be accessible. That's going to be a big part of it. They can, if they can't reach you and they can't talk to you, you're out of sight, out of mind. And if you get brokers that you haven't talked to in a while and they're banging down your door all of a sudden, it's because they have a deal that's hard to sell. So don't be overly flattered by their desire to work with you. How to maintain your standing. Again, you know, this is just repeating what we've already talked about, like just constantly being a person of integrity. Don't bend the rules. Don't do anything that's questionable. You know, be very quick, be candid in your conversations. If there's a problem with a deal, you know, just voice that problem. Just go ahead and say, like, hey, we got into due diligence and we found this to be a problem. You know, we don't like to retrade, but this is, you know, bigger than we thought, because like I said, those things will come up. Hey, let's have a conversation about it. And just go ahead and communicate that instantly. A lot of groups, or some groups, will wait until the end. They as soon as they found the issue, they are like, we're not going to buy the deal, but they don't tell you about it until, you know, day 29 of the due diligence. That was 30 days long, and they're telling, oh, we're not going to trade the deal, instead of having a conversation and trying to work it out. Because there are people that just see problems. There are people that are looking for solutions, and people that only see problems like cannot handle. So always be looking for a solution, but the only way to find solutions is to talk about the problem. So you can't have a solution to something that you don't know is a problem. All right, so that is some of what I had on the reputation. I know it's pretty brief. I was going to keep it that way for those of you that weren't on at the beginning. It is my oldest daughter's 17th birthday today, so we're celebrating. Doing a little celebration with the family, so I was going to keep this one a little bit shorter. And you guys are quiet today. You're not giving me any questions, so you're making it easy on me. I love answering questions, so feel free to do so. Let me just scroll down. I do have one about the convention. Is if one is not able to attend, and if I am on virtually, or there be a way to access conference videos later. Hannah, can you answer that question? I believe yes. If you purchase a ticket, you should be able to get the recordings, but it's obviously the sessions won't be open to the general public. But I don't want to speak there, because then our marketing team. Okay, so no, this and so there. This is why I asked. So we will not be recording this event. It is in person only. Okay, we might do that in the future, but for right now, it's in person only. So we hope to see you there in person. I understand if you're unable to make it. What's going on there? So, all right. Well, there are no other questions. And I know that was a little bit brief. I don't want to take up much of your time. Be sure to sign up for the webinar. The conference. I want to see you there. There's so many names that I see on these webinars week to week as we're on it, and I don't get to see you in person. Some of you I've met in person, some of you I haven't. So please be sure to sign up. We want to see you there. We want to shake your hand, say hi, ask you what's going on in your multifamily career and how things are progressing and how can we help you to grow. So any questions that you have that you didn't think of while you were on this, please feel free to email me and ask me in person. I'll be happy to do so as time permits. Next week, we'll have, I think Danny will be on, Danny Randazzo will be on speaking to you. He's got a mystery topic, so that's TBD. So you'll find out about that. But stay tuned next Tuesday, same time, same place, 11 o'clock. And we'll see you then and hope everybody has a great week.